Good morning, everyone. Today, Baruch Hashem, we are chapter 19 in Ilchot Shabbat, and we have 26 halachot. It's for the merit of David Aryeh ben Basya and Rivka Gittel bat Aida and their daughter Sofia Chaya. Hashem should bless you and thank you for your sponsorship of Daily Rambam for you. We are starting right away with the first halacha, Kol Kle HaMilchama. We spoke yesterday about what exactly are the quantities that we can carry. What are we allowed to carry? What we're not allowed to carry? So now we're going to continue in that same breath. Kol kli hamilchama yotzin bahem b'Shabbat, ve'im yatsa, im hayu kelim she'en derech malbush kegon שריון וכובע ומגפיים של הרגליים, הרי זה פטור, ואם יצא בכלים שאינם דרך ליבוש, כמו רומח ושעי וקשת ואלה אבטחיס, הרי זה חייב. So what happens concerning wearing a weaponry in a public domain? So what are the rules? If these objects are worn as garments, right? In Israel, it's pretty much a garment to wear a rifle, right? A coat of mail or a helmet or iron boots, he's not liable. If, however, he's going out to carry these articles but not worn as garments, like for example a spear, a sword, a bow, or a round shield or a triangular shield, these are items that are called that you are carrying. So you have to be careful with what you're carrying on Shabbat, which means that carrying a gun on Shabbat is not so simple, if you don't have an eruv. You have to ask your local rabbi what to do. And this becomes a whole question concerning synagogues. Should we hire guards which are Jewish or lavdil guards which are not Jewish? Because it becomes a problem. So that's a whole discussion by itself. I'm not going into it. And you see misandal mesumar shesimro lehasko ve'afilu b'yom tov gazru shelo yetze bo. A person that has a sandal studded with nails to fasten it, you're not allowed to go out with it. Why? One of these nails could fall, right? Even on the festival, our sages said it's not permissible. מותר לצאת באבנת שיש עליו חתיכות קבועות של כסף ושל זהב כמו שהמלכים עושים. On the other hand, you're allowed to go with a belt that has pieces of gold and silver embedded in them. It's just like the kings wear. Today it seems everybody's a king. Right? כמו שהמלכים עושים מפני שהוא תכשיט, because it's like an ornament. וכל שהוא תכשיט מותר, any type of ornament is permitted. והוא שלא יהיה רפוי, as long as it's not weak and loose. Because that maybe it's going to fall in the public domain and then a person will carry it. What happens with a ring? Are you allowed to wear a ring on Shabbat? טבעת שיש עליה חותם מתכשיטי I'm sorry. Right? A chotam, which means a seal. You know, just like these seals that they used to have on the rings. Mitachshitei aish. This is a type of jewelry that a man wears. Ve'ena mitachshitei isha, but not a woman. U'she'ein alea chotam mitachshitei isha. And one that does not have a seal on it is a type of jewelry that a woman wears. Ve'ena mitachshitei aish. And the one that doesn't have a seal on it is not the type of garment the type of jewelry that a man wears. And therefore, if a woman would wear a ring that has a stamp on it, that's called carrying for her. But if a man wears a ring that doesn't have a stamp on it, that's called carrying for him. So now comes the whole discussion. Is a man allowed to wear a ring on Shabbat? Right? The ring that we know that there's his ring, there's her ring, and then there's a sufferer ring. I'm just joking. That was a joke. I'm sorry. That was a joke. Okay. So what happens is that in that case where you have a ring, so the ring itself becomes a problem. Is a man allowed to wear a ring? That's a whole discussion altogether. I guess in this day and age, if you want to ensure that your husband is behaving properly, you want him to wear a ring. Like this, everybody knows that he's married. But that's a discussion by itself. Why are they liable? If you're going to say that they're carrying, they're not carrying in the normal way a person is carrying. Because normally, both the man and woman are only going to wear the rings that are fitting to them. אין דווקא להוציא באצבעה אליו טבעת ראויה לה, מפני שפעמים נותן האיש לבעתו, לאשתו, להצניע בבית ומנחת אותה באצבעה בעת הולכה, וכן האישה נותנת טבעת לבעלה כדי לתקנה אצל האומן, הוא מניח אותה באצבעו עד החנות האומן, נמצאו שיוציא אותם כדרך שדרכה להוציאן, ולפיכך חייבים, because we have situation that maybe a man is going to give his ring to his wife while put it on her finger while she's walking to keep it for him, or she's going to want to fix her ring and she's going to put his ring on his finger, and therefore they might be carrying. So in that case, we are worried. We continue, chapter 19, Halacha 4. לא תצא אישה וטבעת שאין עליה חותם באף על פי שהיא מתרשת הגזירה שמה תוציאה ברשות הרבים להראות לחוות רק הדרך שאנשים עושות תמיד, ואם יצאה פטורה. So then here it says although a ring that doesn't have a seal, doesn't have a stamp, is considered to be a piece of jewelry for a woman, says the Rambam, she should not take it. She should not go with the ring in the street, in a public domain. Why? She might show it to her friends, and therefore she's going to start walking with it on Shabbat. So if she did go out with it, she's not liable. Today, I don't think that applies anymore. אבל האיש מותר לצאת בטבעת שיש עליה חותם מפני שהוא תכשיט, ואין דחקו להראות ונהגו כל העם שלא יצאו בטבעות כלל. It says, and the man on the other hand is allowed to go out with a jewelry that has a stamp, because he's not going to show it to anybody. Today, says the Rambam, we have the custom that nobody goes out with any type of ring whatsoever. Maybe a ring around the collar. Anyways, אישה שיצאה במחת נקובה חייבת והאיש פטור. Let's look here at our graphics, okay? And you could at the same time look at what it says, the different things which are called ornaments and the things that are not called ornaments, and at the same time review what we spoke about. So, אישה שיצאה במחת נקובה חייבת והאיש פטור, a woman who goes out wearing a pin with an eye, which means something that's sticking out of the pin, right? She is liable. A man is not liable. But a man who goes out with a pin without an eye, right? He is liable. But a woman is not liable because it's one of the type of ornaments that she wears. The only reason why she would not be allowed to is because she might show it to a friend. So now comes the question of these little things. You know, sometimes you buy a suit, especially the men, and you have this little thing sticking out, it's branding and so on and so forth. If it's attached in a way that it cannot move, it's part of the garment and it's an ornament to the garment, that there's no problem. If it's something you're going to add on top, it becomes a big issue in the different rabbis, according to the different rabbis. This is the general principle. כל היוצא בדבר שאינו מתכשיטו ואין לו דרך מלבוש והוציאו כדרך שמוציאים אותו דבר חייב. Whenever a person goes out wearing an item that is not considered to be jewelry for him, and it is not worn as a garment, he is liable if he transfers it in an ordinary manner. And anyone that is going to go out wearing a piece of jewelry, right, that is loose, and it might happen that it's going to fall and he might carry it from the public domain to the private domain. And so too, a woman that went out with jewelry that normally she will show to her friends, she might show to her friends, they're still not liable. Anything which is an ornament, which is jewelry, Ve'eno nofel, and that does not fall, which means it's holding well. Ve'en darka le'aroto, and it's not the type of garment, the type of jewelry you're going to show. Ve'eno nofel, and it's not loose. Ve'en darka le'aroto, הרי זה מותר לצאת בו. You're allowed to go from a private domain to a public domain. So the conclusion of our discussion here is that if you're wearing something that is not going to fall, that you might not show, and it's customary for a person to wear, then he's allowed to carry it. This has to be closely clinging tightly to the flesh, so it does not slip off. Which means we're talking about the ring, for example. And so too in other similar situations. So now we have another type of situation, is what we call woolen strands, or strands which are made of linen or wool. Or for example, a headband. She should not get out with this because maybe she'll take it out. Bisha'at tefillah, at the moment that she needs to immerse herself. And then she'll carry it in the public domain. Women used to wear some type of frontal garment, right, which is just at the level which is between her eyes. So what happens, right, it's called a frontlet on her forehead. Okay, this velo be, and she should not go walk and in a public domain with this. Velo belchayim shel zahav shiordim min hatzitza lechayeha, and so too there used to be like jewelry coming out of that frontlet that would go on the cheeks. She can't go out with that. Bisman she'enan tfurim ze bazeh, if they're not sewed together. Velo be'ateret shel zahav shemanachat barosha, and so too not with a golden crown that she would wear on her head. And what happened is that women used to wear in the olden days some type of cuffs that would hold their legs, right, with it looks like somebody that's in prison, but so they would not walk with their feet the legs too extended when they walk, in order not to lose their sign of virginity. So that as well, right? You're not allowed to carry any of those. On Shabbat, it's called carrying because they might fall, and then a person is not going to be careful, and he might carry it. A woman should not go out wearing a necklace or a nose ring. You see from here, we didn't have to wait 2026 for women to wear nose rings. People did it a long time ago. They used to have a flax of perfume. They used to wear, a little flax extra perfume to be able to, smell good, right? So you're not allowed, and they used to put it around the forearm. Sorry. And not with a small pouch with balsam oil, in which balsam oil is placed, called a kochelet. And this is very interesting. He says, nor should you wear a wig that will give the appearance that she has a full head of hair. So now they see this was at the time of the Rambam. The Rambam is because here she's not wearing it to cover her hair. She's wearing it in order to show that she has a lot of hair. It's a hairy situation. And as well, she should not wear a woolen pad that goes around her face. Right? Who wants to do that? or a false tooth. Sometimes a person used to put all false tooth. Guys, just when we read these halachot, we have to appreciate that we are today living like kings. Really, look at the garments we have. Look at the traveling we can do. Look at everything that we have in our reach. Today, even for the teeth, and not for the false tooth, the tooth crown, the golden crown that she's going to place over a tooth that has become dark or adom or blood or red. But if it's a silver tooth, it won't be noticeable. By the way, there's a whole study that was made with silver tooth, how it's not very good for the health of a person. Kol elu asurin latzet bahem. In all these cases, you're not allowed to carry them. Shema yiplu teviem biyada utachalot v'tereh lechavretea. So we have two reasoning. The rationale between these two halachot is that you might carry on Shabbat. If it falls, you might pick it up, just like this guy.
So I told him, not on Shabbos.
So you understand, you don't want that to happen to you on Shabbat. So don't lose it. Anything that our sages said that you're not allowed to carry in a public domain, you're not allowed to carry even in a courtyard that's not surrounded with an eruv. Chutz mikavulu pe'ah shel se'ar, the exception of that wig that we spoke about, or the face pad that we spoke about. In order that she should not appear unattractive to her husband. A woman who would go out with one of these flaxes of perfume, but it's empty, then she is definitely liable because there's no purpose whatsoever. יוצא אישה בחוטי שיער הקשורים על ראשה מפני שהמים באים בהם ואינם חוצצים ואינם חולצתם, אם הרעלה תפילה עד שנגזור שמה תביהם ברשות הרבים, בין שהיו החוצין שלה, בין שהיו חבטה, בין של הבהמה. What happens is a woman sometimes uses certain strands, right, of hair that are attached to her head, right? And in that case, we're not worried that she's going to carry, and if she needs to go to the mikveh, she'll take them off, because even if she went to the mikveh with them, they're kosher. It's kosher. It's not going to be separation between the water and her hair. And an elderly woman should not, however, go out wearing strands of hair from a young woman, for they are becoming to her. And we fear that she might remove them and show them, look what hair I got. Right? But a young girl is allowed to use the hair, to carry the hair of a elderly woman. But if it's woven hair covering, then it may be worn. מפני שאינה חונקת עצמה בהן, אינן חוצצין, ואם היו צבועים, אסורים שמה תראה אותן לחברותיה. A woman may go out wearing strands which are tied to her neck. They used to do that sometimes, right? Because they're not tight, they're not attached tightly. If not, you would choke. You must be choking, right? And you don't want a situation where then there's no problem. She's going to go to the mikveh, it won't cause an interruption. Therefore, there's no problem. But if it was colored, it's a problem because she might show her beautiful neck less or neck whatever to neck strand to her friend. ויוצא אישה בקליל של זהב בראשה שאין יוצא בו אלא אישה חשובה שאין דרכה לחלוץ ולהראות, ויוצא בציץ ולחיים של זהב בזמן שאין תפורים בספחה של ראשה כדי שלא ייפלו וכנקלציה בזה. A woman is allowed to wear a golden diadem, right, which is this type of crown if she is a dignified woman, right? A dignified, sometimes you have royalty, you have people that wear certain things which are really dignified. And I would say that even for the garment, sometimes you have an ambassador, right? Or an ambassadress, if that's the way you say it in English, and you have a little pin over there that says ambassador. So right away, to respect the guy. So that type of thing, a person is not going to take off because he's important. The same thing here with what's on the head of a woman like this. And concerning the how do we call it before? The frontlet. The frontlet, that's the word. The frontlet with the little gold jewelry coming out, as long as it's attached to her hair or attached to her hair covering, it's okay. Yud Aleph, Yotz'a Isha b'moch shebe'ozna. A woman is allowed to go with a wadding in her ear. It's a little thing that sticks in the ear. Sometimes you have a ear infection. As long as it's attached to her ear, right? And what sometimes a woman has on her sandal, she's going to have a little bruise over there, and she's have a special wadding. And so too, if a woman is chucking herself for her nida, right, she's allowed. Even if it's not attached. We're always worried that she must show this thing when it falls, and therefore in these cases it needs to be attached, and something that she's not going to show, she doesn't need to be attached. Halacha Yud Bet. ויוצא בפלפל ובגרגר מלח ובכל דבר שתן לתוך פיה מפני ריח הפה ויותן לכתחילה בשבת. She's allowed to go out with pepper, a grain of salt. Maybe she needs to take, when her husband speaks to her, she needs to take it with a grain of salt. No, that's not the reasoning. The reasoning is because maybe she has a bad odor in her mouth. So tic-tac, right? Or something else. So really, one should not go out with this type of breath freshener in your mouth on Shabbat. Yotzet nashim in a place that you can't carry. Yotzet nashim bekisimim shebeznaim uberalot shebezavaran ubeksutan uveredid haparuf. Just this would warrant us to go and look at the style of dress of women of the olden days. What they used to wear that was popular. Maybe it's time to invest in a new style. Who knows? From 1,000 years ago, and it's going to come back in style. We never know with this crazy generation. It could happen. So he says, a woman is allowed to go wearing silvers of wood in her ears, or little bells on their neck or garments, and a cloak fastened with a makeshift button. Incredible. או פורפת בתחילה בשבת על האבן ועל האגוז ויוצלת, ולא תערים ותפרוף על האגוז כדי להוציאו לבנה הקטן. Indeed, a woman may fasten her cloak in this manner using a stone or a nut on the Shabbat and go out, provided that she does not use this leniency to use the nut in order to give it to her kid, which is making her nuts. Do you understand? וכן לא תפרוף על המטבע לכתחילה מפני שאסור לטלטלו ואם פרפפה יוצא עד. Right? So what happened is sometimes, I'm going to explain to you what we're talking about. Here we go. We have a garment right here. And what happens is, in order to attach this garment, you're going to attach it around something round. In order to, so imagine that you have here, right here, I have a hole in my jacket. And in order to attach the jacket, I'm going to, it's too thick, this is too thick. I would take here, this, I would put inside some type of nut, and then it would act like a button that I could attach the other side of my jacket with. Right, so we don't do that with a coin. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. She should not do it with a coin, but if she did it, it's not called carrying. So you see all these original ways of making buttons. יוצא אדם בקסם שבשינה ושבסנדלו לרשות הרבים, ואם נפל לא יחזיר. ובמוח ובספוג שעל גבי המכה, ובלבד שלא יכרוך עליהם חוט או משיכה, שהרי החוט והמשיכה חשובים לסובן על מועילים למכה. A man is not allowed to go out in a public domain with a sliver of wood in his teeth, which is basically a toothpick, or in his sandal. If, however, it falls, he should not put it back. Right? And he may not go out. He may go out, on the other hand, with a wadding or a sponge over a wound, which means a plaster, a Band-Aid today, in this day and age, provided that he does not wind a cord or a string over them, because the cord and the string are as important, and they do not assist really in attaching the Band-Aid, so forget it. In the olden days, they had these methods to be able to heal wounds. They would put a garlic peel or an onion peel on a wound. I don't think that the big pharma would be happy if we reveal all the secrets of healing of the time. So they used to do that. So a person is allowed to do that if it's like going to be like this type of bandage over a wound. As well, bandage on the wound. So you're allowed to go with, listen to this, this is great. I think we should try this. A garlic peel or an onion peel on a wound. Tell me the good news afterwards. If you have any comments, you can go down right there and just put your comments. I remember they say that an onion a day keeps the doctor away. I'm sorry. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? And they say an onion a day keeps everybody away. Anyways, let's continue. Okay, I'm in a good mood today, guys. I just came back from a bris. What happens? Let's continue. ומלוגמה ורצייה שעל גבי המכה ובסלע שעל גבי הצינית ובבצת החרגול ובשן השועל ובמספר הצלוב ובכל דבר שתולין אותו משום רפואה והוא שיאמרו הרופאים שהוא מועיל. There were different things which people used as healing. Today you have these stones. It's a big deal. People are making stones. There's special energy in this stone and that stone and so on and so forth. People want to get stoned without getting high. Anyways, the bottom line is, so they hang it, they keep it on themselves and so on and so forth. This was a good omen, right? So they used to use, for example, a sela type of coin, or a footstool, or locust eggs, or a fox tooth, or a nail from a gallows, whatever that means, right? And from a gallow, which means whatever, and or any type of other entity that would be for refuah, for healing. If it works, you're allowed to wear it on Shabbat. But be careful. Sometimes you have people that wear amulets, and it says, you can't just wear whatever you want. You have to ask your local rabbi what's in fashion in Shabbat, what's called carrying, what's called not carrying. יוצאה אישה באבן תקומה ובמשקל אבן תקומה שנתכוון ושקלו לרפואה. A woman may go out with a tekuma. The tekuma, it's a special stone called tekuma. Look on it for online. Look at ChatGPT or Claude, right? And they'll tell you what a tekuma even is. Tekuma stone is. Why? ותקומה אבן תקומה שנתכוון ושקלו לרפואה. This was weighed and carried with the intent of serving as a remedy, as we said before. Not only a pregnant woman, in order to not lose her child. All right, so this was causing certain energy, and I'll share with you a little something very interesting for women that are having difficulty having pregnancies or don't have a regular cycle. It's very interesting because you see that There are things that do work and have a special energy. Not only a woman which is pregnant is allowed to do so, even other women which might get pregnant and miscarry. And so too, a person is allowed to wear, and she's allowed to go with an amulet of an expert. What is an amulet of an expert? Right? Who says somebody sells you an amulet for $500 or $1,000 or $5,000? You know he's a crook. Maybe, how do you know if it's a good amulet or not? If this amulet has proven to cure 3 people, to bring healing to 3 people, it's okay. Then it works. Or some it was made by the person that already healed 3 people. You're not allowed to carry, on the other hand, an amulet that's not made by an expert. But if you did so, you are patu, you are not liable according to Torah law. Because the way you carried it was as if you are wearing clothes. And so too, somebody which would be wearing his tefillin, right? Anything that's going to be like garments, right? It's not a problem. Okay. So let me just speak about what I spoke about before. I deal a lot, unfortunately, with cases of infertility. We've had, Baruch Hashem, quite a lot of success. Maybe at least 10 women which couldn't have kids, and then they had kids. And then the kids became teenagers and they regretted having kids. I told them to wait a little longer till they grow up. Anyways, that was just a joke for those who are listening. Just want to see who's listening, since nobody has their camera on, almost nobody. So the bottom line is, concerning many times a woman might have a problem of cycle, right, in her cycle, and that causes that the possibility of having children is more difficult, and therefore one of the things that helps getting pregnant is wearing a ring that is made of iron, an iron ring, right? There's a secret according to Kabbalah, because the word barzel in Hebrew, barzel, which means iron, forms the letters of the 4 mothers, the 4 wives of Yaakov, Jacob, our forefather. Bilhah, Rachel, Zilpah, and Leah. Yeah, exactly. So let's carry on. We're in Halacha 15. Halacha 15. What happens to a person who has a wound on his foot? He may yotze besandal yechidi beraglo abriya ve'im en beraglo makar lo yotze be'achid. Normally, you're not allowed to wear one shoe. But if you do have a wound, it's not going to look weird that you wear 1 shoe, then it's okay.
Where's his other shoe? Probably carrying it. On Shabbos?
So exactly, we're scared that this guy, if he's going to walk with 1 shoe, people are going to say that you're carrying it. For example, let's say right? You might carry it. Let's say adam biminal gadol. Sometimes your shoe is irritating. You have some good eczema between your toes, and you want to take off your shoe. You shouldn't walk with 1 shoe. Right? Walk with 2 shoes. Be normal. Unless you're a teenager. If you're a teenager, you can walk anything you do is going to be accepted, because you're going through that period of your life where you're not normal. A child should not go out wearing sandals of an adult, right? But he is however allowed to wear the cloak of an adult, even though it's a little longer. A woman should not go out on Shabbat wearing a loose-fitting sandal, nor wearing a new sandal that she did not wear for even a short period of time before the commencement of Shabbat. Why? Because she might be uncomfortable. You know when you wear new shoes, they stick like this on the foot, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. And, why did I buy these shoes? I want to give them back. And you might take them off and not be comfortable. ואין הקטע יוצא בקו שלו, and one-legged man may not go out wearing his wooden leg. Remind me to share a story about the one-legged man. You're going to get a kick out of it. Not two, just one. Sorry. Anyways. הנקטמין של עץ אין יוצאים בהם בשבת מפני שאינן מדכא על בלבוש והם יצאו פטורים. Right? Where he may not go out wearing wooden shoes because it is not the ordinary practice to wear them. If, however, one goes out wearing them, he's not liable because it's still going to be a garment. יוצאים בפיקריון ובציפה שבראשי בעלי חטאתין. A man may go out wearing tufts of flax or a woolen wig worn by men when they have sores over the head. You know, sometimes you have these guys, they don't have any hair. So men don't like that they're hairless. So they go to Turkey and they get implanted their hair, and for a period of, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, their head hurts, so they have to put things on their hair. That's what we're talking about here, for example. So a man is allowed to do that in that case. Right? When does this apply that he can do it? When he colored them with oil and he already wore them before Shabbat started. Aval, he cannot do it on Shabbat, which means he has to show that he would do it even during the weekday. But if he is, if he did not go out wearing them before Shabbat, he's forbidden to go out on Shabbat with them. יוצאים בשק עבה ובסגוס ובראייה ובחמילה מפני הגשמים, אבל לא בטבע ולא בקופה ולא במחצלת. מפני הגשמים. One, so this becomes a very current issue. You know, you're in shul, and Florida's weather is bipolar. So one second it's beautiful outside, and the next second on Shabbat you're getting out, and boom, you have a tremendous rain that's coming down. Can't even call it a rain. It's a mabul. It's some type of a flood. Concerning the person asking the question, of course, we're only talking in a place where there's no eruv. But let's face it, guys, we travel, and not everywhere. Nobody is as lucky as we are in Florida to have an eruv everywhere we go. Most places you go in Florida, you have an eruv, so you can carry everything except your burdens. I'm sorry. Pardon my sneeze. So, let's continue. So now, what happens? Are you allowed to wear, and so it starts raining. So now you want to put something, you don't have a poncho, and so on. So you're allowed to wear what's called a coarse sackcloth, a tent cloth, or a thick woolen blanket, or a coarse wrap as protection against the rain. But you're not allowed, אבל לא בטבע ולא בקופה ולא במחצלת מפני הגשמים. On the other hand, you're not allowed to wear a chest. We're going to find out what that is in a second. You'll show basically a basket, okay, or a container or a mat as protection against the rain. So you're going to say, oh, but Rabbi, can I just use my umbrella? Shabbat, you're not allowed to use an umbrella. You're making a ohel. You're making a tent on Shabbat. We'll find out a little later in the chapters of the Rambam. Hakar ve'akeset. אם היו רכים ודקים כמו הבגדים, מותר להוציאן מונחין על ראשו בשבת דרך מלבוש. When a pillow and a blanket are soft and thin as garments are, you may wear them, you may go out with them as a wrap on one's head on the Shabbat, right? Because they're considered to be like a garment. If not, but if they are firm, they're considered as a burden and prohibited, as you see here in the picture. What's allowed and what's not allowed. Stay dry. Let's think. Halacha Yud Chet. Halacha 26. Another 8 halachot to go, guys. You guys are absolutely doing great. יוצאים מזוגים ההרוגים בבגדים יוצא האבן בחותם של ציץ שבצווארו, אבל לא בחותם של מתכת, שמה ייפול ויביאנו. One may go out with bells woven into his clothes, right? A servant may go out wearing a clay seal around his neck, right? Which shows most probably who is his master, but not with a metal seal, because if it's going to fall, he is going to carry it. Well, if it's a clay seal, just like we saw last time, the halakha about the ledge that comes out of the window, if you're allowed to, what type of pots you're allowed to put there. If it's going to be something that's made of clay, if it falls, it's going to break, so you will not carry it on Shabbat. הביטטב וטליתו וקיפלה מכאן ומכאן בידו או על כתפו, אם נתכוון לקבץ כנפיו כדי שלא יקרעו או שלא יתלכלך, הוא אסור. When a person wraps himself in his talit or folds it, either holding the folds in his hand or placing them on his shoulder, if his intent is that the ends of the garment should not tear or become soiled, it's forbidden because he's doing it for the garment. ואם קיבצן להתנאות בהם, כמנהג אנשי המקום שלהם מותר. If he did it in order to look honorable, then it's okay because he did it to wear a garment. היוצא בטלית מקופלת ומונחת על כתפו אסור. If you're going to wear your talit on your shoulder, but not as a garment, you're not allowed to do that. אבל יוצא הוא בסודר שעל כתפו. ואף על פי שאין נימה קשורה לו באצבעו וכל סודר שאינו חופר ראשו ורובו אסור לצאת בו. However, a person may go out with a wrap folded around his shoulders, even though a thread is not tied to his fingers. I'm going to give you a simple example. When I was in yeshiva, we were in an area where you cannot carry, so it becomes a problem, and you need to go to the mikveh in the morning. Sometimes you didn't have a towel. So what did we do? We used to take the towel, roll it up, attach it as a knot around the neck, and that was okay. Right? Whenever a wrap does not cover a person's head and the majority of his body, it's forbidden to go out with it. But there's other ways to do it. הייתה סבנית קצרה שאינה רחבה קושר שני ראשיה למטה מכתפיים ונמצאת כמו אבנת ומותר לצאת בה. A cloth that is worn as a hair covering that is short and not wide should be tied below one's shoulder. Thus it will serve as a belt and it is permitted to go out with it. It's another way to do it around the stomach. That's when you don't have a lot of stomach. מותר להתעטף בטלית שיש בשפיתי המלעל, אף על פי שאין חוטין ערוכין. A person is allowed to wear a talit even though there's unwoven strands at the edge of the talit and they're long. ואף על פי שאינן נועל לטלית, even though it doesn't beautify the talit. מפני שאין בטלים לגבי הטלית, because they are basically one with the talit, ואינו מקפיד עליהם בין היו בין לא היו, and he doesn't care if they are there or not. לפיכך היוצא בטלית שאינה מצויצת כהלכתה חייב. And therefore, a person who's going to wear a talit which doesn't have tzitzit, he is punishable מפני שאותן החוטין החשובים אצלו. ודעתו עליהם עד שישלים חסכונם ויעשו ציצית. So he says, the garment is only important if you're wearing tzitzit, and therefore any of the strands which are hanging from them is subsidiary to the talit. But if the talit doesn't have tzitzit, then these strands are important for you, and that's called carrying. אבל תמיד מצויצת כהלכתה מותר לצאת בה בין ביום בין בלילה שאין לה ציצית הגמורה מסוי, אלא הרי היא מנוי ומתכסיסיו כמו האמרה וכיוצא בהן. ציצית, which are kosher, are not considered a burden. Therefore, it's a rather what enhances the garment. ואלו היו חוטי הציצית שהיא מצויצת כאחת המסוי, היה חייב היוצא בה אפילו ביום השבת, שאין מצוות עשה, שאין בקרה דוחה שבת. And if it was punishable, then obviously, even though it's a mitzvah to wear tzitzit, it would be prohibited on Shabbat. לא יצא החייל בשבת במחת התחובה, לא בבגדו, ולא נגר בקסם שבאוזנו, ולא גרדי בעירה שבאוזנו, ולא סורג במשחה שבצווארו, ולא שולחני בדינר שבאוזנו, ולא צבא בדוגמה שבאוזנו. You have different people who have different types of jobs, right? You have a carpenter that has a sliver of wood behind his ear, or a little pencil. A weaver has some type of wool behind his ear, right? A carter of flax will have a string around his neck. A money changer will have a dinar in his ear. And a dyer will have a sample in his ear. These were different original ways to carry it. These people are not allowed to carry that way. Nevertheless, they're not liable according to Torah, even though they're not allowed to do it. Because he didn't carry the way a person usually carries. Okay, as you see here in the picture, you have different types of people with different types of style. Pretty cute. Okay, let's continue. Another 4 halachot to go. היזב שיצא בכיס שלו חייב מפני שאין דרך כיס זה להוציא עולה כדרך העוזות, ואף על פי שאין הוא צריך לגוף ההוצאה, אלא כדי שלא לחלור בגדיו, שהמלאכה שאינה צריכה לגופה חייב עליה. A person who has a sickly emission is not allowed to wear a bag to collect that sickly emission in order that his garment should not get dirty on Shabbat. Because even though he didn't do it for the purpose of carrying, nevertheless, he's still liable. Now, what happens in this case? A person is walking and he finds tefillin in the public domain b'Shabbat. What should you do? Lovesh otan kedarkan. Then he should put on the tefillin on Shabbat. We don't put on tefillin on Shabbat. To put him on, because he wants to save them, that they shouldn't be disgraced in the middle of the street, right? Maniach sharosh berosho v'shel yad biyado. He should put the head tefillin on his head, the hand tefillin on his hand. ונכנס וכל צד בבית וחוזר ויוצא ולובש זוג שני וחוצו עד שיכנס את כולם, שיכניס את כולם. Then he should wear the tefillin, come home, take them off, and take the other pairs of tefillin until he finishes carrying all the pairs of tefillin, because he did it in a way that's a lavush, that's a carrying a garment, wearing a garment. And if there were many pairs of tefillin, there was not enough time to bring them in during the day by wearing them as garments, right? He should sit by them and stay next to them so that they don't get damaged. And concerning the question that was just asked about, isn't that considered maritain, right? You're going to show people that you wear tefillin on Shabbat. Well, in extreme cases, we don't care about maritain. This is an extreme situation. If it was a time of oppressive decrees, when one might fear to linger and watch them because somebody might kill him, then he just covers them and he leaves them. Should he be afraid to wait until after nightfall because of the thieves? What should he do? At night, certain areas, he's in the Bronx or in New York City, anywhere, Hashem Yerachem, today, and he sees a bunch of tefillin. So what should he do in such a situation? And he needs to carry them, but he doesn't want to sit next to them. He should walk 3 steps, hold them, walk 3 steps, and wait, walk 3 steps like this. He never did a full 4 steps with them. Or, as we explained in one of the halachot, one of the previous chapters, then you should make a line with your friends and you pass it one to the other, one to the other, one to the other, and like this, none of you actually carried from a public domain to a private domain, to a private domain. I'm sorry, none of you carried 4 steps. במה דברים אמורים שהיו בהן רצועות והיו קשורים קשר של תפילין שוודאי תפילין, and this is all talking about if they had the straps on it and they had the knot of the straps. אבל אם לא היו רצועות מקושרות אין הנזקק להם, but if they're not tied the proper way of tefillin, then you don't know that for sure that they're good tefillin and so on and so forth. So in that case, you leave them alone on Shabbat. Amotze Sefer Torah. What happens if you find a Sefer Torah in the street on Shabbat? So Yoshev Mishamro, you should sit to the Sefer Torah till the end of Shabbat. Umachshich alav. Ubesakana manicho veolech lo. By the time of danger, then he's allowed to leave the Sefer Torah by itself. Im hayu gshamim yordim mitatev ba'or. If there was rain, then he should wrap himself in the Sefer Torah, and then cover it with his garments, and then he can carry. On Friday, shortly before nightfall, a tailor should not go out on the public domain carrying a needle in his hand, nor should a scribe go out carrying his pen. Why? Because you're so used to it, you might carry it on Shabbat. It's like this object. It's abomination. It's taking the people's lives away, right? You're Shabbat, before Shabbat, you're walking and everything, and next thing you know, oh, it's Shabbat, and I still have it in my hand. Separate from it before Shabbat. Get rid of it. Toss it away. Let it go, right? If it's too close to nightfall, he might forget and carry them because that's what he's used to. And this is a beautiful, incredible halakha. Chayav Adam. Very important halakha. Chayav Adam lemashmesh bevigdo erev Shabbat im chashecha. A person is obligated to check his clothes on Friday before nightfall. Why? Lest he forget something in them and inadvertently transfers it on Shabbat. You understand? That's why I said the same thing with the phone. Be careful. You're carrying that phone Erev Shabbat. Already minutes before Shabbat, close it, put it away. Because you might carry it, and as Shabbat comes in, you won't pay attention because we're so used to having our phones in our hands. But a person that wears tefillin a whole day, and Erev Shabbat, he's still wearing them, it's okay. Why? Because you're always checking that you have your tefillin. The whole purpose of tefillin is to remind you that you're with God all the time. If a person remembers that he has tefillin on his head, first of all, the good news is he has a head. And he has tefillin on top of his head. In that case, he should cover the tefillin till he goes to his house or to the Bet HaMidrash, to the study hall. And that concludes our chapter for today. So I was going to talk about the one-legged man. It's into this story. There was a king, and that king, he wanted to, he had a son, and the son, unfortunately, could only see with one eye, and he only had one leg. He asked the artists of his kingdom, 3 artists, to make a painting that would show the prince, the son of the king, in his glory. First one, what did he do? He said he made the painting as if the 2 eyes were seeing perfectly well, and as if he was on 2 legs. It's a beautiful painting, but it wasn't reality. The second artist, what did he decide to do? He decided he is going to make a beautiful, beautiful painting, but he's going to show the reality. But it's still a beautiful painting. The third one decided, you know what? Can't lie. But at the same time, I can't show this problem that the king's son has. So what did he do? He made a painting of the son of the king, the prince, on a horse with a rifle, with one eye closed, looking in the rifle. And since you only had a picture, you only saw one leg. And like this, instead of showing what the king's son, the prince, was lacking, he showed what the son has. In life, my friends, we might be lacking a lot. We have to focus on what there is. And the same thing goes when we see our fellow. Have a great day. God bless you. And thank you for joining Daily Rambam for You.